I think that one of the core ingredients in Jewish survival through the millennia, against all odds, despite, is that we are a tradition of questions. Questions, not answers, are central to who we are. And it turns out the tradition of questioning dates back to the very first story of the dawn of humankind. The very first question in Torah was, Ayeka, where are you? Where are you? God asked this question to the first human being as Adam hid in the garden. Now, of course, this was not a question of physical location. God knew where Adam was. There weren't that many people to keep track of at that time. The question is much deeper. The question was asking, what is the state of your soul? One rabbinic colleague interpreted this to mean, where are you in your process of becoming? The great Jewish scholar Adin Steinsaltz wrote, the voice in the garden is still reverberating throughout the world, and it's still heard, not always openly or in full consciousness, but nevertheless still heard in one way or another in a person's soul. And a person may repeat to themselves, indeed, where am I? The call of these Yamim Noraim, these days of awe, is to bring this first, most essential question into full consciousness, to open the gates of the heart, to look closely and deeply with curiosity and honesty at the neshama. The neshama, we translate it as soul, and I like to translate it as the essential self. What is this self, this soul contained within me for this unfathomably brief time in the lifespan of the universe? What can my neshama uniquely bring into this project of being alive in this world right now? And what does my neshama need? The neshama is all that we are, all that we have been, everything we've experienced, our hurts and our joys, the ways we need to grow and heal, and the parts of us that are strong. It's the instrument we have been assigned for the divine symphony that is human life in this world. We need to know our instrument. We need to know all that we carry. This seeking of the self is what Rav Kook understood as the true meaning of teshuvah. Teshuvah, that word that is said and heard and sung, prayed and chanted, the leitmotif of the 40 days spanning from the 1st of Elul through Yom Kippur. We often translate it as repentance, but the Hebrew root is shuv, return. And Rav Kook taught this was a return to the self. In his book, Orot HaTshuvah, he wrote, when we forget the essence of our own soul, everything becomes confused and in doubt. The primary teshuvah, that which immediately lights the darkness, is when a person returns to himself, to the root of his soul. Then he will immediately return to God, to the soul of all souls. So some of us might be thinking, yeah, I know myself pretty well. I've been with myself for a long time, and sometimes I get sick of myself. I know myself so well. That's what you might be thinking. These days are actually an invitation to go deeper, to uncover the parts that we don't typically wish to look at. The Israeli novelist David Grossman also writes of the importance of seeking out and returning to that neshama, to that essence of our soul. In a 2008 essay, he wrote, "In the Jewish tradition, there's a legend that every person has a small bone in their body called the luz, located at the tip of the spine, which enfolds the essence of a person's soul." Did you ever know that's where the essence of your soul was? In a bone at the tip of your spine. This bone, the legend says, cannot be destroyed. It stores a person's spark of uniqueness, the core of their selfhood. Those of you who would like to find your own response to the question may, when you go home, he writes, choose to gather your thoughts and consider, what is the thing within me that is the true root of my soul? What's the quality, the essence, the final spark that will remain in me even when all other things are extinguished? What is the thing that has such great and concerted power that I will be recreated out of it? That's part of the legend. That when in Techiyat HaMeitim, which the Reform movement got rid of in our liturgy, the resurrection of the dead, but it's deep within Jewish liturgy and thought that at the end of days, the dead will be made alive again. We like to take that more metaphorically, but that's another sermon. But it's this thing in the legend that will actually allow us to be reconstituted at that time in a private, extremely private sort of big bang, as David Grossman writes. He continues that once in a while he asks people close to him what they think their luz is, and he lists some of the things that he's heard. He says that several writers and artists in general have said their luz is creativity, the passion to create and the urge to produce, and that religious people have often said their luz is the divine spark they feel inside. One of his friends said, parenthood is my luz, and another said her luz was her longing for things and the people that she missed. A woman who was roughly 90 at the time talked about the love of her life, a man who committed suicide over 60 years ago, but he was her luz. So why am I inviting you to dig deep to the essence of your soul, figure out what your luz is, to respond to that eternal question, Ayeka, where are you? These questions might strike you as selfish, as inward-focused navel-gazing. You might be thinking, is that really what we need to be doing right now? Why, Rabbi, are you talking about something so intimate and so personal at a time when it feels like the world is on fire? Aren't you going to give us something to hold on to, some words of strength and comfort as we enter a new year in such a precarious time for our world, for our nation, for Israel, for our Jewish people? Something to hold on to give us strength in such a time. This is it, though. We need to learn and to tend to our own singular souls because they are our ship on this rocky sea. Returning to ourselves and coming to understand ourselves better and more deeply is not a selfish navel-gazing exercise. It's nothing less than a fulfillment of our covenantal responsibility to act as God's partner in this world, a world which needs us, a world in need of what each of us, with our own unique gifts, can offer. From a place of inner strength, we can reach out to others, and from a place of purpose, we can do our part in this moment. When we take the time to know ourselves and the gifts that make us who we are, then we can respond to the question, Ayeka, where are you? There's an ancient biblical response to this question. When some of our ancestors responded to God's call, Hineni, here I am. I'm ready. I'm fully present. I'm here for what is needed. We can't say Hineni. We can't offer ourselves without knowing what we bring. It's not easy to say Hineni right now, but as I said earlier in my remarks at the beginning of the service, we don't have to do everything to meet the world's need, but the world needs every one of us to bring our luz, our neshama, into this moment. That's what it is to be in a covenantal relationship to the divine. We're all carrying so much right now. We're carrying a lot. No matter your feelings about the state of the world, no matter your feelings, your politics, this is a heavy time, a time when our people is more vulnerable than we can remember, most of us. And I'm telling you that this looking inward is our job right now, so that every one of us brings what is needed. Like in the book of Esther, when we read on Purim, perhaps it was for just a time as this that you were created. These are the words spoken to Esther. Imagine, say this to yourself. At exactly this time, what is it that I can offer? What is it that I can offer? The primal call of the shofar is considered a call of waking up in many ways. May it wake us up this year to self-examination, to honesty with the self, to what we are best at and what we'd better let other people do, to where we need to grow and what we have to give, to rouse us to action, to rouse us from the slumber, from the false notion that we're not needed, that the world can go on without our active and mindful participation. How, after all, can we do anything to change the tides of history? What can we possibly do, just ourselves, to make sure Israel can be a safe and sovereign nation, that Jews around the world can be safe from anti-Semitic rhetoric and violence? What can we do with all of the suffering in the world? It's easier to not do anything or assume we can't do anything because we can't do everything. But our tradition teaches us unequivocally that we can't opt out. This gift of a life to live places upon every one of us a sacred demand, a responsibility that our ancestors accepted millennia ago, but that our tradition teaches we accept again and again. Again, to cite Rabbi Abraham Isaac Kook, the 19th century rabbi, he said that in a prayer that we say on Yom Kippur, "My God, before I was formed, I was of no worth, and now that I've been formed, I am as if I have not been formed." That's part of the liturgy. And Rav Kook said, that seems like it's a statement that we're so small and irrelevant, but he turned it on its head. And he said, this prayer means, before you were born, there was nothing that needed you. Because you were born, because you were needed for some purpose, you were created. As Rabbi Shai Held points out, the sin to which we confess on Yom Kippur, according to Rav Kook, then, is that the world has changed and I'm now needed, and yet I go on living as if nothing had changed and I were not needed. And he suggests that perhaps at the end of Yom Kippur, we should add to this traditional prayer, before I was formed, I was of no worth. We should add words from the prophet Isaiah. Now that I've been formed, Hineni, here I am, send me. You are needed, every one of you. You're a part of the Jewish people and the Jewish story. No matter how you choose to connect and engage with your Jewish identity, whether you're a Jew by birth, by choice, a fellow traveler as part of a Jewish family, you are necessary to the Jewish story. Your unique heart, your soul, and your voice is needed. So I come to you tonight at this opening to the High Holy Days with this invitation to rediscover who you are and where you are and what you are able to offer. May the words that we say, which have been handed down for generations, may the melodies that we hear, may the conversations we have with each other all be opportunities for us to come to rediscover ourselves, to take off the masks that we wear, even in front of ourselves, from some of our parts that are hurting. Because all of us is important to the story, not just the parts that we would label good. There's no such thing as good parts and bad parts. We're all stitched together. Lots of different parts, lots of different experiences, passions and struggles and joys. And all of it is needed here. Our tradition insists that there is no moment too late in a lifespan for this teshuvah, this turn toward yourself. So there's a lot of noise around us, and there's a lot of noise within us. May these days be a sanctuary in which we can find the still, small voice of the soul. The shofar is loud, but its ultimate goal is to call us to listen to the still, small voice that needs quiet attentiveness. May we coax our souls out of hiding. When we can be honest with ourselves, we can bring forth that honesty in others. May we come through this journey being able to more authentically respond to Ayeka with Hineni. May we return and return again for the sake of our own souls and each other. So necessary, so beautiful, so filled with hurts and hopes and joys. May we do this for the sake of our world. Also so necessary, so beautiful, needing us to birth it into wholeness. Shana Tova.